Welcome to MMA Fancast. I'm Luke, and I'm joined today by Brittany Bickhart. Brittany, welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's great having you on the show. I interviewed you a few years ago. You were fighting in Allentown, I believe, and then that fight got canceled last minute. It was disappointing. It was going to be a Muay Thai kickboxing fight. And now, in the years in between, you've moved out to Pittsburgh and joined a new camp, and you're going to make your MMA debut on Thursday night, March 11th for CFFC. So there's a ton going on. Can you jump back and take it from the time when you moved from Eastern Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh and run us through from there?
Yeah. So definitely a lot has happened in my life since that fight fell through when I first met you. Let's see. I moved to Pittsburgh last December. So when I moved out here, I was super, super stoked to start training at Stout. I knew they were a great school. I was very excited to see how much I'll improve. I was looking forward to start taking fights with them. And then the pandemic hit and the world stopped and it was wild. And so, we just did what we could. When we were all shut down, I became a runner. I ran like every single day. It was like my new hobby. And I think the entire world went through a lot of adversity. And I think we all kind of realized what was important, take a step back. But, if you want something, you got to keep working for it. So that's just kind of what I did. I knew we'd eventually open back up. So soon as it was about November, 247 started having fights. So I tried to get on that card for MMA. I unfortunately couldn't get an opponent. So I know Ohio Combat League had an event this past weekend. Unfortunately, couldn't get an opponent. So thankfully got one for CFFC, and I'm super, super excited.
Yeah, and it's going to be you going to what is the opposite side of the state, but still where you're originally from. So given the restrictions, are you expecting to have people in the audience, or is it a closed audience?
So I believe they're limited capacity. Since I took it short notice, there was only like one VIP table left. And thankfully, so my dad, my stepmom, my girlfriend, and then her brother could come. So I am thankful for that. Even if it was no fans, I'm super, super, ecstatic that I can even get the opportunity to fight. So I'm just ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been about 3 years of you wanting to get fights. And I know you've tried to get many different fights, but you did do some BJJ, correct? At some point through Stout, or was that before Stout?
That was before Stout. I started training in both, a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of BJJ. I did do some, jiu-jitsu tournaments here and there. So I haven't done a jiu-jitsu tournament in a while. So once things get, more steady, I would like to do one again.
And I know, like you mentioned, you were training during the lockdown and all that. There was a lot going on, and you had to learn to be kind of more cross-training, running instead. But because I've seen on Facebook that Stout's been up and running for a couple months now, right? As far as back doing their stuff. What gave you the confidence and your coaches the confidence to take a short notice fight?
Just staying ready all the time. I'm in the gym every day. The coaches are absolutely amazing. The drive there is just, I'm motivated when I'm there every day. There's other guys motivating me too. They're taking fights. There's pro fighters there. There's always work to get. Every single Saturday we have, a fight team practice and somebody has a fight. So it's always been pretty steady. So the motivation had always been there. And seeing that my coaches did believe in me, were excited for me to get a fight. We were trying for a while. I think that's what had a lot to do with, all right, this fight's short notice, but we know that I've been putting in the work too.
Well, it's really, the confidence is where preparation meets opportunity, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about. You're confident because you've been preparing, and now you have the opportunity. You mentioned 247 Fighting Championships, and they've officially announced that they'll be having a double header show, back-to-back shows on May 22nd. So hopefully you'll be able to be on that event and kind of have a local Pittsburgh, because Stout usually has quite a few fighters on the 247 card, and I think it'll be exciting. Now, when you talk about taking your debut fight, you're going up against Samantha Brister, who's 1-1. And so as far as MMA goes, amateur, she has a little bit more in cage that is official? Because obviously you have a lot of training and practice. What was it like to get the opportunity against somebody who, at least on paper, has more experience in the cage? You're not going up against a debuter.
Yeah, I know she trains at a very good school, so I'm definitely going to go in there with, respect for her. I'm sure she takes this sport as serious as I am. So that makes me more excited for the opportunity. It makes it more real for me, put someone like real against me, see where I stand. It's a great test. So it actually made me more excited, someone who has experience, you know, and I understand that, like you said, just the mentality of just stepping in the cage, even if you lost, like just going through the whole day and putting yourself in that situation, she has experienced what it's like. So I'm definitely more excited that it's someone like her, someone that takes it serious. I'm sure she wants to go far. I want to go far. So I think we're both going to put on a great fight.
And that's a great attitude to have. When you talk about going far, you've been training since 20 or 21, right? As far as when you started training age-wise. So what have you learned about yourself in the time that you've been training as a person and as an athlete?
I definitely, you have to sacrifice a lot of things. You can't live if you want to go quote unquote far as like a pro and do something with that. Just know that there's going to be lots of setbacks. I've had so many setbacks, even just to get to this. I'm just debuting for MMA. I'm basically nothing yet. And I've worked so hard to get to even to this point, and it's definitely always going to be a long road. You're going to have to put things aside, sometimes say no to family events, time with friends, drinking on the weekends, eating what you want, and just going into the gym when you don't want to go into the gym is like the main thing. If I wanted to train every single day, that'd be great. Most of the time I'm too tired, but I still go. So just, a lot of dedication in your head, pushing through when you don't want to.
Of course, and dedication is doing what you don't want to do when you need to do it. And that's exactly what you said. Today, you mentioned that on Saturdays, Stout has their fight team practice that's, for the competition or the fight team. And you just did that today. What was that? What is that like when you're not planning for a fight, but you still go? And what is it like now that you actually have a fight coming up? Is it different emotionally, or have you liked kind of every Saturday is a fight camp for you, even though you didn't have a fight scheduled?
I would say your training partners push you a little bit harder. They push us no matter what. So honestly, like it's kind of like Corey, my life's like a fight camp anyway. We go in there, we all get work. If someone else has a fight, I'm trying to push them. And then like I see the guys take fights on short notice. So I try to think about that too. This could happen to me. So definitely, though, when you do have a fight, it's a different vibe. They see that you're tired, they'll push the pace. The coaches pay a little bit more attention to you. So don't let you slack off. Work on what you need to. So I'd say there's just like tiny little details, but for the most part, we always go hard. We're grinders.
Well, that is very much. I know both Wilkins brothers. I had the privilege years and years ago, seems like a lifetime ago, knowing Mike when he was a freshman at Waynesburg University. I was his track coach. It seems like a lifetime ago, but I've known him that long. I knew him back. You've probably seen photos. I knew him back when his hair was like big and curly.
The long hair.
Oh yeah. That's how long ago. But you bring up a good point that Stout, and obviously they have more than just the Wilkins. I know the Wilkins, but that whole camp is known as a successful, very good camp. And I think that's an important part. One of the reasons why I do this show is to help people recognize that there's a whole lot that goes into MMA that you'll never see. UFC 240, 259 is tonight. And obviously that's the top of the mountain. But like you said, you've worked years to just get to 0-0, to just get to your debut. And then down the road, when you go, or if you were to go pro, you're back to 0-0 again, and it starts all over. So have you thought about that when you talk about a career or wanting to be in MMA long term, how many like resets you're going to have to go through?
Yes, 100%. And it kind of, I mean, honestly scares me to think about that far in the future of like, wow, like there's going to be so much that happens in between now and when I do go pro. And I know there is going to be setbacks, injuries, fights that fall through, pandemics. I mean, come on, like we're going through a pandemic. We stopped the world. So I definitely am one to just face it and keep pushing. And, you know, it's, there's gonna be bad times. It's going to happen, but like who you are in that bad time to keep going forward is like what you'll be in the end. So I definitely think that it's a long stretch from here until pro. And then even when I am pro, like you're
Yeah.
still kind of nothing. You still have to prove yourself once again. That's what I like about it, because that feeling of just succeeding and killing a practice when you didn't want to go and cutting the weight and making weight, and that's what I like about this sport is, you know, that feeling after just killing something when you didn't want to.
Absolutely. And I think for every second under the bright lights, particularly in MMA, any sport, particularly MMA, because it's so one-on-one, for all those seconds of success, there's thousands of stuff that goes in, good or bad. We've seen some of the high level people kind of fall off in their focus, some of their behavior, you know, some of those things. John Jones looking at you, but no, there's so much that I just gotta throw. But seriously, right? That there's so much that can happen to make somebody successful or not successful outside of the cage. Since you've mentioned when you go pro, here you are making your debut with already plans to go pro. What is that in your mindset that makes it like you clearly want to learn from amateur? There's a lot to do, but you kind of already have in your mind that you want to turn pro. When did that come about, and how are you at that point already, mindset wise?
Definitely when I moved to Stout. Um, Honestly, even thinking about fighting in MMA when I moved to Stout, I remember I was talking to Will, like the head coach, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll get you an MMA fight right away." Kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, "Oh man, am I really ready for MMA? Like they think I am, so I must be." But I have really been working on just putting everything together. Honestly, the pandemic, it is a very unfortunate thing, but it allowed me to really focus on, since I wasn't taking any fights, just focus on what I was weak at for MMA, like takedowns and whatnot. So I definitely, and just hearing other people say it, like if my coach is like, "All right, when you go pro," and then like teammates, "When you go pro," and like hearing other people say that, you're like, they see that, so I'm seeing it, and it pumps me up. And you know, I train with pros on Saturdays, and I see what they went through, and I'm like, I can definitely do this. Like I know I'm gonna do it. So I think that mindset, honestly, Stout is what gave me the confidence.
Well, a huge shout out to Stout and all their coaches and athletes. I think that's another thing when because I've had the opportunity on this show to interview UFC fighters or fighters that are on the Contender Series, which is exciting. But one of the things they bring up, and actually years ago George St. Pierre brought this up as well, is there's people in the gym that may never fight, but that make people better. You know, they're the gym buddies or they're the gym training partners. And GSP actually years ago mentioned a guy by name who doesn't fight, but was good enough to be training with GSP, making him better. What's it like to know that you need a whole team around you? Obviously, the pros, people are doing it, but also people that just are grinders and showing up to make you better.
Yes. There's a lot of guys like that at Stout. Shout out Jesse. He Jesse Florentino, he has helped me with my wrestling tremendously. He doesn't even fight. I'm sure if he took a fight, he would do fine. And it's just the everyday people too. I'll get in my head and I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to be here today." And you know, I see the mom with 5 kids doing the same workout I'm doing. And I'm like, who am I? Like, she's doing it. I can do it. So people like that, you never know what someone might say or what someone might do without even, they don't even know it, and they motivate me. So it's everywhere, especially in Stout, such a big community. Like right now I have the fight. I've never had so much support than I do right now from my friends back at home, my family walking through the gym. They're like, "Oh, you have a fight." Like they want to watch it. So that is like just everywhere. The motivation's everywhere. Even if they don't fight, they're just genuinely interested in what you're doing. So that's awesome.
You're bringing up the community, and I think this is one part about MMA that you know the UFC or the Bellator fan that just likes to see people get punched in the face maybe, which, is a good portion of the people watching. And of course, that's what the fight does. But I think people are always surprised in whether it's boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, BJJ, wrestling, it just goes right down, or MMA, how much of a family and a community, the good gyms. There may be gyms which are too brutal or just too abusive, maybe, because sometimes that comes up, and we certainly don't support those gyms. But what was it like? When did you realize the community in MMA or in training for you in your life, and how valuable that can be as a person?
I think I definitely realized when I would start going to fights with my old gym, and I realized how small it was. Like I remember I saw Mickey Gall and Frankie Edgar at one of like the cards that I went to for an amateur fight, and I was like, wow, like they're here cornering the guys, and I didn't realize how close knit things were. I didn't even really understand the process back then. And just now, just like people reaching out that I may have fought in the past, or I briefly trained with for a weekend. That's one big thing. Actually, like if you go visit somewhere, you can tell a lot about a school that like, hey, I'm in town. You mind if I come through and train? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you walk in and it's like, you've always known these people and they want to help you, and they give you tips. And so I definitely think it's like you said, it's hard to explain. It's just such a close knit group, and we all kind of understand each other, so I definitely love the martial arts community, the training community. I found some of lifelong friends through this.
Well, I think that's the thing that often goes unsaid, particularly when you watch, a UFC main event card or something. You forget the fact that they're people. All professional athletes, champions included, are people, and they need lifelong friends. They need people in their corner. They need people that support them. Speaking of people in your corner, this is your first time in an actual MMA fight. Obviously, you've done some other competitions, but who's in your corner, and what does it mean to you to have them in your corner and make this trip to Philly with you?
This is a good question. It's so it's going to be Will Morrill. I think I said his last name right. It's bad that I don't know how to pronounce it. So he's like the head striking coach, and then Mike Wilkins is going to be in my corner. So that, honestly, I'm very excited about that, because if you would have told me starting out in Lock Haven, very small school, did not train with pros, that fast forward my life and this would be where I was at, I'd be like, you're joking. So I'm super excited that, they're making the trip out with me. They're as excited as I am, and that makes me super motivated. I just want to make them proud. I want to make all my coaches proud, and that just by itself is a lot for me to, keep pushing and wanting to do like really well in this fight.
Well, absolutely. I think that's a great mindset that you have. You have the striking coach and obviously Mike Wilkins all around. I actually had the opportunity to watch him in the same venue, the 2300 Arena for CFFC several years ago. Long before the pandemic, he fought for a world title for CFFC in that building. So it's kind of going to be cool for him, I'm sure. I have to warn you, though, and maybe you know this, but I'll ask you the question before I warn you. What do you know about Mike Wilkins' corner strategies? Do you know anything about how he corners fighters?
I don't. I mean, I've heard stories. I just know that they're like, he's the best corner you'll ever have. So sure. I'm like, hey, we'll be good.
Okay. Then maybe I won't warn you. He's just, what's great about Mike, obviously, and you want this in a corner, is you want somebody who's very clear, stays calm, and gives focused direction. I mean, I think you know this. You're a student of the game. You've watched a lot. Every once in a while, even at the UFC level, which blows my mind, you get corners that are terrible. Fight harder. Punch him in the face more, don't lose. It's like, what are you saying? But one of the things that Mike does, just so you know, I'm sure it won't be a problem for you, but I've seen him actually turn his back. Like he will actually turn in the corner and turn his back if the fighter isn't listening to what he's telling them to do. So you may want to talk to him about that. But yes, I don't think he'd do that maybe on your first fight, but he's a very clear corner. I think you'll love having both your coaches there. And I think it's important, because when I have fighters, including Mike and others, when I have pro fighters on, they will often talk about how it's more stressful to be in the corner because they can only do so much. The fighter has to do it. And when you're in a fight, you have the ability to do whatever you can do. Like you have more control. So coaching, particularly MMA, with all the variety of it, is a sport in and of itself. So I mean, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about that. Who are your main thank yous, your gratitudes as we go into this? It's already fight week for you here, and we'll look at that now.
My main thank yous, as always, my teammates, even my teammates in the past, all my coaches in the past, and my coaches now. Just really dedicating their time to me, caring about me, helping me grow. Definitely my girlfriend, because I'm cutting weight, I'm hangry, and she has to deal with me every single day. My family, they're super supportive. Like I couldn't be luckier. Even my coworkers, understanding that maybe sometimes I'm cranky at work because I'm cutting weight, like right now. So just everybody just like really cares about it. And I couldn't be, so lucky or any more lucky to have the people around me that I do. So a little bit of everyone.
Well, I think that's wonderful. It's always great to see that even though you'll be fighting by yourself in the cage, you have both the coaches and your family supportive there, but also around the state of Pennsylvania and all over. I saw some comments on your Facebook page of people being excited to watch you on UFC Fight Pass because it's going to be UFC Fight Pass. So you'll already be in front of people that you know and also that you don't know all over because of UFC Fight Pass, which is just so cool. If you have a prediction, you can make it now. If not, that's cool. But I always want to give people the opportunity because that's part of the fight game to kind of have a mindset going in whatever works for you.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely feel Samantha's a great opponent and I respect her greatly, but I know it's going to go in my way and it just may end early. So that's what we're going for.
Hey, that's a good prediction. I can't wait to see what happens. I do want to get you on the show again after your fight once you get back to kind of check in with you, see how everything went and everything from the outcome to also the process and the journey. So thanks so much for coming on the show today. Best wishes to you in your debut fight.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.